Hello everybody, welcome to Rewrite Your Reality with Reese. I am your host, and on today's video, you exist. Your desires are one with you. Now, couple questions revolving around self-concept, the 3D persona, and awareness. So I'm going to go through all of that, what it means in terms of your desired reality, your desires, anything. So it's not that you are separate from your 3D persona. The truth is your 3D persona doesn't actually exist as something objective or solid. See, imagine you're watching a movie and you pause it at one frame. Does that character exist now? Yes and no. See, the character exists within the spectrum of that movie. Once you pause the movie, the character is no longer being lived, so to speak. And where you are currently is where the character is currently. You may have watched the movie before and you know the overall arc, but where you are is exactly where that character is perceiving themselves in that moment. The past and the future is kind of arbitrary to where they are. They have an idea of a past, but obviously in a movie it's very linear. But in reality, your past isn't necessarily what your past is all the time. It's always changing. It's an illusion of who you are right now. So those selection of frames, they give an idea, a character. They create the idea of this character. It's not an objective being, it's a projection. So what you see on screen is actually one interpretation of the character. Again, if you pause the movie and you start imagining what else that character can do, that is another valid version of that character. Just play around with it. And you might have done this already, right? You're thinking about a movie you watched and you come up with other variations of what the character can do. Yeah, maybe you in the middle of season 1, season 2 or something, and then you kind of just imagine what season 3 is like. Those are versions of the character, but they're coming from awareness of what this character can be. But in terms of the story, it's your awareness creating the story through that other version of person who is creating the story, not necessarily your physical being. Okay, but those are valid experiences of that character. They exist, otherwise you couldn't imagine it. And that's what you are doing with your physical self in every moment. You're projecting a new version of that 3D character again and again. See, so you're not attached to being the character. You are awareness and aware of a character, a version of the character over and over again that you just like, and you're recreating new versions of it in the moment that you are experiencing it, moment by moment. Every single moment is another version of a character you choose to experience. Perfectly fine, right? And you can think about it again when you're watching a series, or specifically a series here. Every point that you see a character, it is the same idea of a character, but it's not the same version of the character. It's another iteration. It could spin off into an infinite number of things from every single moment. You are just watching one of those infinite number of things as a singular story. And like I said, if you pause it, you can see other versions. It's kind of like this. See, it's very backward and forward. It doesn't have any kind of logical direction, but when you see it and experience it, it has a logical experiencing, so you as a 3D figure can make time-space sense of what you are experiencing. Now, starting from the center one, if you just go forward in the story that you are watching, it has some sort of linear timeline, okay? Especially if you watched it already, you know the linear timeline. But if you were to just pause it or create your own little story arc here, you can go into something else completely from any single moment. It's completely up to you imagining it. And a lot of the time, people do that, directors do that. They leave something very open-ended, because what the audience creates is far more pleasurable than what they can ultimately create, because it's usually from their point of view. But if they leave it up to your point of view and you take that character to where you just naturally have experienced your specific version of that character, then you'll always unfold it into what you just prefer, and you'll enjoy the experience, opposed to having a solidified experience that the director will show you. And again, every single point leads back and to another point over and over again. And just so you know, all of those points is actually how it looks in that corner, loosely, where everything is happening superimposed. That's why it can all connect from every other point. You see, I've only got it connected logically, where you can take this step and then that step and then that step. Reality doesn't care about logic, because its logic is far more greater than anything we can logically can come up with from our vantage point of being in the 3D experience. So all of it's there. And here's the thing, even though I haven't the slightest idea which frame that I put there is first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, and seventh, the source of that projection knows exactly which one's where and how it's lined up and where the addresses are, everything like that. You are that same source. So when you are imagining, you don't have to go and dig through a file cabinet in the middle of your head somewhere that's infinitely big, infinitely long. But which is why it's pointless to go and look for things to fix. Because if you are infinite, how many things are you going to find to fix? You are infinite. You are infinite in every single way possible. So how many will you find in order to fix? Ultimately never fixing any, because they just exist in that state. Which leads me to what self-concept really means. You see, self-concept is not about fixing. It's not about reprogramming. It's not about building confidence, right? It's about who you know yourself to be. See, the self isn't the human identity. It can't be, as I've shown you, that the human identity is always changing. It's the awareness that is behind it, that is projecting it. And you are that awareness. You are just listening to what you are being aware of via your three-dimensional self saying it. But you are always observing it as the knowing that you are of creating what you are saying to know it. You see, awareness can't hear itself unless it does it through a mirror mechanism. And your human body, your human self, your human voice and speaking is the mirror. So you don't need to become aware. You are already awareness. You don't just switch to awareness. It's recognizing you've always been awareness. You've never not been awareness. That's the trick of reality. You've tricked yourself into thinking that you were never not something. The reality realization is to realize you've always been this thing, projecting the thing you thought you were. But you were never the thing you thought you were. You always were the thing you were trying to be. We understand the 3D world, right? Everything you are aware of is awareness too. That's why there's no separation. There's no fear in saying, I'm going to be awareness now. No, you've always been awareness. Everything is awareness. You see, when you go into anything, you realize that it's all just energy. It's all the same energy field, but even that comes from the same knowing that energy field into existence. It's infinite intelligence knowing itself, having created the mechanism of three-dimensional space and time to recognize the three-dimensional space and time aspects of itself. So you don't stop being the 3D character when you realize you are awareness. You just start realizing what characters you can project. That's the point. You see, you simply see that your 3D character comes from your higher self, awareness itself. In every moment, you are just choosing to be a version of the character you enjoy being. That's the thing. You're not losing your three-dimensional self when you realize you are awareness. You are gaining more versions of your three-dimensional self because you've always been awareness. That's the only thing you're doing. You're actually gaining something. By loosening your grip on what you think you are gaining the awareness of more of what you've always been. Oh, I love it when it sounds poetic. Reality's simple function. That's all reality is doing. It's being something it chooses to be. And here's the thing, everything that you're seeing, it chose to be it. You are just a consciousness that is conscious of being consciousness in order to choose any version, any scene, and every version of you that you can be aware of and express itself in whatever form that you are now imagining that form to be. So in terms of that confidence and anxiety and conviction is a great one actually. Those are what you're talking about. That's what you're trying to fix, those frames. But they're in the frame. They're not outside the frame. They don't manifest more frames. Nothing comes from the frame. You don't even go from this frame to another frame. That sad version of you, of us, of anyone, stays there. That thrilled version stays there. That in love version stays there. You can be confident and you can be anxious. It doesn't matter. You are source creating everything. That person that was running and they lost that race, they're feeling disappointed, but they were confident when they started. Boxing, both people enter the ring. Both of them are confident. Only one of them is going to hold up the belt at the end of the championship fight in their perspective of reality, in your perspective of reality. It's awareness of knowing the other guy also won in another version of reality. You just so happen to be experiencing this one. And that's really what you are like. You are awareness watching that which you have created as frames of reality experience. So the coaches, the people, reflections, myself from your point of view and yourself from my point of view, it's all coming from the same awareness, but it's our own individualized point of view as that awareness. See, that awareness is infinite, but it can't necessarily experience infiniteness with the finiteness of what makes it up. So we have to have this finite viewpoint that we call our specialized experiencing of reality, which is Reese, and everything Reese can be, in every moment Reese can be it, and whomever else all of you are, right? Your specialized viewpoint of that same infinite awareness that we all are. That's why everything just exists, because it's awareness being the infiniteness of everyone from everyone's point of view, because they are infinite themselves. We are infinite ourselves. So when we choose one of the infinite versions of ourselves, everything reflects it, because there is already a reflection for the infiniteness of one of the choices that you can make. So whatever choice you make of yourself, there is a reflection that refers to it with everyone else. That's why this works, because it already exists that way. So from your point of view, I come from your awareness. Absolutely. And you have an infinite versions of everyone, including myself, right? My 3D character comes from your awareness. My 3D character also comes from my awareness. It's the same awareness expressing itself through infinite forms. So the version of me that you guys could be contemplating, or versions of anybody that you guys can be contemplating, it's coming from your specific point of view. It exists for your specific point of view. Now, knowing first, feeling awareness, right? This myth, when people say it's not enough to intellectually know you are awareness, you have to feel it. That's just words for me, truly. That's because there's no real difference between knowing something and feeling something, because both are manifestations of your acceptance that you are awareness, right? Feeling is a knowing. Intellectually knowing something is a form of knowing. It's all a form of knowing something, right? You can't feel 1 + 1. You just intellectually know that it's 1 + 1. We have two things. You have that feeling, you have that knowing, you have that intellectualness of it. It's all the same thing, frankly, to me, right? Not putting anyone else's opinion down on this, but again, it's all filtered opinion through ourselves. I'd rather just go right to the end and say, yeah, I accept that I am awareness. But I know that, right? So accept that you are awareness. It doesn't really matter. I do kind of have the idea of what they are referring to. You kind of have this feeling of simultaneous knowing that you are one with everything and somehow simultaneously also nothing at the same time. I do refer to it as like, or when I, what the thing I'm referring to is kind of this feeling of, for lack of a better term, and I'm not saying this as a literal thing, you kind of feel as if you are a black hole, where you are a embodiment of a black hole experiencing physicality, like the physical world around you. It's just a feeling. It's just words. It ultimately doesn't mean anything, and you aren't carrying it with you anyway, right? Like I said, it's just words. It's the acceptance that you are everything and not actually required or needing, or even if you wanted to, could hold on to everything that you are, because you can't let go of it because you won't go anywhere, and you can never hold it. You can only experience it. You can only have the experience that you're pretending to hold the thing, but you're not. You're just being another version that believes it's doing that. Now, you can never tell whether someone else knows they are awareness. You can only ever know that you are that. You can only ever accept it for yourself. So whether it feels intellectual or emotional, it doesn't matter. Just feel into your own acceptance. You know what? I know I exist. Just always start there. Just start with I exist. The feeling of you exist is that feeling. There's no other feeling. I feel myself, I exist. My feeling of my wish fulfilled is me literally just existing. That's the feeling of wish fulfilled, because if you exist, your wishes exist too. Right? So what matters is your acceptance that you have always been awareness. And like I said, it's mystical experiences are basically just saying, oh, I had this mystical experience, but again, it's just awareness creating another version of experiencing that identity had the path of least resistance into experiencing that. That's all. All of us have it. Those things just don't resonate with us because we are preferring to experience it another way. You can have a mystical experience in traffic. It doesn't matter. You can have a mystical experience having coffee. That is a mystical experience. How can anything not be a mystical experience? Because it's all created by the same awareness. God created everything. Why would God create you sitting on a mountain under a tree as more godly than you sitting in traffic when God made both? That's actually what I wasn't planning on saying this. It just popped in. There's not a recommendation, but I do remember there is a story about Buddha on, I think it's on Netflix. I can't quite remember where it is, but it's about Buddha. It's about 50 episodes. And there's a kind of funny thing where he spends the whole season, and this is how he experienced himself, right, as a singular story of it. Obviously an interpretation of everything that's there. But yeah, he experienced himself being Buddha consciousness. And what really made me laugh was the moment he realized who he was, as in this consciousness. He got up and he was hungry. He went to go eat something, as if that was the most spiritual thing he could possibly do. It's like, no, I was going to go eat something. That's the point I'm making. That's literally the point I'm making. You know, watching a movie is a mystical experience. Crying, laughing, walking, and breathing are mystical experiences. Do you know why? Because it's awareness being aware of itself, but I'm reading my thing there, but do you actually know why? It's because God cannot do any of that without you. God, you are literally doing the thing God can't do without you doing it. You are doing it on behalf of God. You are here as the first son, the second son, only son of God. Son, not son as in, direct descendant. You're as in like light being of God. Anyway, you're here to do that. God can't watch a movie. God can't have morning coffee. God can't have can't have a crying, laughing, walking, breathing experience, because God is being all of it. It needs you to have completely forgotten all of this stuff in order for you to experience it. So how can it not be mystical, right? Everything is mystical. Even being bored out of your mind, it's mystical. So whether you're sitting on a mountainside realizing your oneness with the universe, it's quite fascinating. I'm more interested how you got up there in the first place. Or you're sipping coffee or scrolling your phone for hours and hours, right? It's the same awareness doing that. It's the same awareness being the phone. It's the same awareness being whatever's on the phone. It's all awareness. That's it. Nothing is more mystical than anything else, right? Even the word mystical is not even mystical, because the entire point of oneness is that everything is one. That's the only evidence you need that nothing is more mystical than anything, is that the mystics always say, hey, everything's one. So it can't be. I am the one and only host of Rewrite Your Reality with Reese. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for the questions as well. Quite a few people asked a similar question, and I could unpack it in one go there. I had quite a bit of fun with that. Much love, much light. Thank you for being here. Thank you for joining. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for watching. Thank you for the comments. Thank you for the questions. Thank you for joining the TikTok page. Thank you for joining the Facebook page. Thank you for the emails. And I will see you all in the next one.